Everybody, welcome back to another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show, where we are helping you to take dominion over your money and your life. We are beyond excited that you are here with us because you could be tuned into so many different shows and so many different platforms, but you're here with us, and for that, we are grateful. If you hear anything that you think other people should know and hear from today's episode, which I guarantee you will, do us a favor and share it on your social media and tag us at His and Her Money, and we will show you love in return. Guys, gals, I don't even know how to articulate it properly, how excited we are about today's episode. We get to interview one of our heroes, and he is a big part of the reason why His and Her Money is here. We came across him over a decade ago, and his teachings revolutionized our approach to personal finances. And for that, we are forever grateful. Who could I be talking about? None other than Mr. Dave Ramsey himself. And he is going to be our special guest today because he has written a brand new book that you all need for yourselves. And we're going to talk about that on today's episode. So I know you guys are excited about today's episode, so I'm not going to belabor it any further. Let's get Dave on so we can hear all his great advice. Hey, Dave, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Hey, I am so honored to be with you. I've admired the work you guys are doing for so many years. We've been friends a long time, and now we actually get to do the show together. This is so cool.
Yes, this is beyond cool. We've got to interview pretty much everybody on your team, and then the day has come where we get to interview Dave Ramsey himself. So we are just thrilled to have you here, sir. Thank you for making some time. So, I mean, you've been doing your thing for decades upon decades. You've been helping people all across the world kind of get a grip on their personal finances, and now you have a brand new book called Baby Steps Millionaires. How is this book, this topic, differ from the books that you've written in the past? You've written several books, New York Times bestsellers, in different parts of personal finance. So tell me about Baby Steps Millionaires and what is the heart behind the message in this book?
Well, you're right. Most of my team has been on with you, and they've launched books, and that's mainly what I've been doing, is helping them get their platforms built and things out into the marketplace for the last decade plus. And so I haven't done a book in 8 years, a major trade book. The last one I did was with my daughter, Rachel, Smart Money, Smart Kids, and that was 8 years ago. And that was a number one, thank goodness. So I really didn't have a big plan, but I kept seeing a couple of things, one that was encouraging and one that was disturbing, and they were colliding. And I got frustrated with it. And generally when I get frustrated, I go after it. So there we go. So one of the things I was seeing is I kept hearing people out there telling me all the reasons that no one can become wealthy anymore in America. You know, there's a lot of barriers. There's a lot of reality. There's a lot of problems. There are things to overcome and obstacles, but people were starting to believe this narrative, regardless of what their reasoning was, that they couldn't do it. Today, you can't become wealthy. Today, you can't. Some of it comes from the wealth inequality movement, the people that, we need to tax the rich kind of idea. And some of it comes from, a restating of sexism, racism, other isms out there that are barriers and problems, and they are systemic problems, no question about that. I'm not denying that at all. But this idea that you can't do it anymore, and I'm a guy that believes you can do it, and we all got obstacles. And then the other thing I kept running into on the positive side was, like you said, I've been doing the show for 30 years. I've been teaching people to walk out of debt so that they can become wealthy and generous for 30 years. And millions and millions and millions of the numbers are crazy. And so I started running into literally thousands of people telling me, hey, I followed your stuff. Not only did I get out of debt, but I'm a millionaire. I followed the baby steps and I became a millionaire. Well, I started just calling them Baby Steps Millionaires because they just followed a simple plan. There's nothing really complicated about what we teach. You know that. Very primitive. And if they just follow a simple plan, get out of debt, save money, invest money, and pay off your house, and you become a millionaire. Well, there you go. And baby steps. And so I thought, you know what? I've got to bring the proof of those people's lives and the actual research that we've done on millionaires and the actual arithmetic, the mathematics together, and even just my 30 years of experience. Those four things come together to bring a body of proof to those who have lost hope that they can do it, and show them that, yes, you can do it. And here's all the reasons why. And someone that looks just like you has done it. And here's an example. And to make people believe. And that's why we did this.
Legal & General America is the leader in low-cost term life insurance.
For nearly 70 years, Legal & General America has been providing financial protection to over 1.3 million families and businesses.
LGA makes understanding and applying for life insurance easy.
You can get a free quote by simply going to hisandhermoney.com/LGA.
And we appreciate you for doing it. I'm curious, because you've been doing this a long time. You talk to people every day about their finances, so you have a good pulse. Why do you think, in all your time and all the conversations you had, I want to deal with the heart real quick. Why do you think some people have a hard time? They don't have a hard time with the Dave that tells them to get out of debt, the Dave that tells them to get on a budget. But when they get to that wealth, the rich, there's this thing in them like, I don't know if that's something that I should pursue because of X, Y, and Z. Why should we go beyond? We should get the basics of the budget. We should get out of debt. We should understand how to handle money. But why should we go beyond that and pursue wealth building?
Well, number one, let me tell you why you don't do it. You don't do it to get more stuff. And you don't do it because money's going to make you happy. And you don't do it just to pile up money for whatever selfish reason, fill in the blank. None of those will be worth it. The trip won't be worth it. And the morality, the spirituality of that is negative. It's not going to work. Your life's not going to, you're going to be miserable. And so, if you're doing it for the person, you're doing it for selfish reasons, that's going to drive you nuts and it won't work. But here's the thing. I have had the richness of soul, the incredible blessing that makes me smile all the way down to my toes, that happens when we're able to impact someone's life with generosity. When you buy a single mom a car and it changes her life. When you buy 10 of them a car and it changes 10 of them's life. When you put toys in a school that got wiped out by a flood and you fill the whole gymnasium full of toys, and so the kids get to have a Christmas in an area where that particular school had 100% free lunch. You don't get to do that kind of stuff if you're broke. So that's why you want to go do it, and so you live like no one else so that later you can live and give like no one else. I want to change my family tree. I want me to be the last stupid Ramsey that made all the stupid mistakes that I did. Man, I've done so many dumb things. And I want to train my kiddos to be generous, high quality people, but also train them to handle the wealth that I'm going to pass on to them, that they're going to manage on God's behalf like I've managed it on God's behalf. So I want to change my family tree. I want to be outrageously generous. Dude, I got enough cars. I got enough trips. I got enough stupid stuff. Get you some stuff. Stuff's okay. But I never saw a Ryder truck fall on a hearse. Don't do it for yourself. Do it for what you can do for others. And then you have a real reason to go ahead and build wealth.
Yeah, good stuff. Baby steps, millionaires. Now, that term millionaire, for a lot of people, feels like that's them, that's for them, that's not for me. Or it feels like this super, as you talked about at the beginning, unattainable thing, something that I can never do. But how do you define millionaire in your book?
I think what you're saying there is important. We have this picture of millionaire, and I can't trace it exactly, but for me, and it might be different for other people, but for me, I kind of think this idea that being a millionaire was a big flashy thing, almost like being a billionaire is now. Back in the 20s. And you think of the roaring 20s with the parties and the super brand new cars, the souped up cars. And you think of almost the flappers doing their thing, right? That whole thing. And there's this sense of wealth, this sense of richness, this sense of the Rockefellers and those kinds of things. You think a millionaire around that. And so along those days, somewhere back in about then is when we all started going, being a millionaire means you're rich, and we started measuring it that way. Now, what's happened is obviously today $1 million is not doesn't have the purchasing power that it did then. It won't buy as much. So being a millionaire is not nearly as rich as it would have been if you were a millionaire in your 20s. But it is richer than if you're not a millionaire. So it's an important distinction. So, number one, you need to kind of get this fantasy thing out of your head that you can do everything you want to do when you're a millionaire, because a millionaire is not a moral construct. It's not it's not good to be wealthy. Wealthy people are evil. It's not about being moral. It's not a moral construct. We can argue that if you want to argue that, but that's not about being a millionaire. A millionaire is an accounting, arithmetic, math thing, and it's a very clear, there's only one definition of millionaire. It's the net worth that you have is $1 million or greater. Your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. What you own minus what you owe equals your net worth. When that's $1 million, then you are a millionaire. Well, I don't feel rich. It's not a feeling. It's a math thing. Well, Dave, that's not enough money to retire on. That's not the argument. The question is is that number, assets minus liabilities, $1 million? If it is, by definition, you're a millionaire. Then we can discuss your feelings. We can discuss the moral construct. We can discuss if it's enough or not. But there's no reason to argue about that. And it's not $1 million a year income. You can actually make $1 million a year and have no money because you spent $2 million a year. So, it's possible. People do that stuff. So, it's a simple idea. And really what it is in your wealth building journey, it's really the first milestone that says, I've achieved a level of wealth, versus having a negative net worth with a bunch of loans and car debt and student loan debt and no plan. And with his and her money, we, as a spouse, we've worked together and we have achieved this first milestone. I wouldn't even suggest stopping at $1 million. It's not like, put your feet up, you're done. That's not it. But the point is, that's the first big thing that says, hey, I got some money now.
Yeah, you just brought up a great point, because a lot of people listening are in relationships, and you've been married to your wonderful wife, Sharon, for a long time, and you all went on this journey together. You all lost it all together, and you all got back on top together. How can the couple listening work together to achieve that goal of becoming a baby steps millionaire? What are some of the important conversations, heart postures necessary in order to do this succinctly together?
Well, as you and Ty talk about all the time, it's just absolutely vital that you work together, because the data actually backs up that. In other words, when we studied 10,000 millionaires, we found like 70, 80% of them credited a high quality marriage, a high quality relationship as one of the reasons that they were able to become wealthy. Because it's just difficult to climb a hill that size if you're dragging somebody up the hill against their will. It's difficult to climb a hill like that if every time you get up 3 steps, somebody pulls you back 4, and because we're not working together. But when you can lock arms together, one of you lift the other one, then the other one lift the other one, and we're doing this together, and we've got the same shared goal of where we're going and why we're going there. It adds layers to the quality of your marriage, the quality of your relationship, and it adds serious numbers of percentage points to the probability that you're going to become wealthy. The chances of you becoming wealthy when you and your spouse are not working together on money, it's very, very low statistically. And common sense will tell you that, but we all go, well, I'll do it in spite of her. Or I know he just goes and makes the money and I take care of it. I'm the only grown up in the house, and he does, and you're actually married, the poor boy's married to his mama instead of his wife, and that kind of stuff. And man, people say that stuff all the time. It just doesn't work. What works is 2 people stand up, square their shoulders as adults, and say, the preacher says, and now you are one. And in that unity, you have shared goals, shared fears, shared obstacles, shared noble reasoning as to why this fight is worth it. And then when one of you struggles or stumbles, the other one pick them up, encouragement, and you can enjoy the victories together, not in spite of each other. How horrible would it be to become debt-free or become a millionaire and your spouse just look at you and yawn? I mean, it'd be awful. And by the way, it almost never happens.
That's good stuff. You're right. This journey is an incredible one, and it becomes even sweeter when you're doing it with somebody that you want to spend and do life with together. Let's talk about pace and tempo, okay? Because your book is called Baby Steps Millionaire. But Dave, we know how powerful both positive and negative social media can be. And in a lot of instances, there are a lot of gurus online that say if you do X or if you do Y or if you do Z, you could be a millionaire in a few years. You could be a millionaire next year. I found this revolutionary new side hustle, new business that you could start, and boom, you could be a millionaire in 2 steps, not 7. So talk to us about the importance of pace and tempo on this journey, even dealing with all the external candy that you see on social media that tells you to pursue it at a different pace. Why do you say this is the best pace? The baby steps millionaire is the way to go.
Well, slow and steady is not sexy and popular. You're right. And it doesn't impress your golfing buddies, and it doesn't impress your followers if you're an influencer on Instagram. Slow and steady is boring. Here's the thing. I'm a real practical guy. I just want to do what works. That's simple. The shortest, fastest thing that works. So what you have to look at is, if you're considering one of these quick, get rich quick things, is, does it work? Okay. Now I grew up in a real estate household. I got my real estate license when I turned 18 years old. I graduated from college with a real estate degree when I was 22. 23 years old, I walked in the back of a ballroom, kind of dimly lit, in this semi-nice hotel for a seminar. Rocky music is playing. We Are the Champions by Queen is playing. We're All Gonna Be a Big Deal Someday is playing, right? All these things are out there. And the guy comes on stage, and man, he's slick. I mean, he's slick. And the essence was, you can buy real estate for nothing down and get rich. And that was good, because that's exactly how much I had to put down, nothing. And so I was all in for his program because it fit with where I was. And you can get rich in a week. You can go buy a house. In 2 weeks, you can go buy 10 houses. And you just start buying. You buy these foreclosures, and you talk these owners into carrying back paper. And here's how you do it. And da-da-da. And he gave us techniques. And then, of course, he closed with the opportunity to come to the weekend seminar and learn the whole program for $3,500. This is 1983. That's how long ago this was. So I didn't buy the seminar, but I bought everything else he was saying. And I went and talked to a banker into loaning me money. Nothing down to buy my first house. And then I talked to another banker into me loaning money to buy the next house. And I started flipping houses before there was cable TV to show you how. And I'm doing get rich quick, nothing down real estate, much like you hear about today in 1983. And I started with nothing, and it worked for a while. I became a millionaire. I had over $1 million net worth at 25 years old. I made $250,000 that year, cash taxable income. That's $20,000 a month, dude. I don't know what neighborhood you grew up in, but the neighborhood I grew up in, we called that rich. It was fun. We were having a blast. The problem was, I had done a bunch of it on 90-day notes, and it was all covered in debt. I had $3 million worth of debt, $4 million worth of real estate. The bank got sold to another bank. They called our notes, spent the next 2.5 years of my life losing everything I owned. The reason I tell you that story is, while I was doing that, a whole bunch of people I was intersecting with were doing the same thing. Nothing down real estate was a big deal. Get rich quick was a big deal in those days. And I was even in a real estate investors club where a whole bunch of people were following this exact idea and using these same techniques. Highly leveraged, no debt, big debt, buying a bunch of real estate. Now, that's 30 plus years ago, almost 40 years ago now, right? You know how many of those people are wealthy today? None.
You are.
I know, but I'm not wealthy off of that. I went broke, and so did most of those. A guy wrote a book called Nothing Down Real Estate. He filed Chapter 11. So I go back, and that's just the first time I experienced that as a young man. a young man who had a lot of academic prowess and very smart with math, but no wisdom. And so I got to have an experience that was negative because I had no wisdom. And guess where your wisdom comes from? Having experiences. Guess where experience comes from? Having no wisdom. So this is what your get rich quick is going to bring to you. It's not going to work. He who hastens to be rich, the Bible says, will not go unpunished. And it's not because it's because you're building a house of cards and then you'd be shocked when the Jenga tower falls over. Well, duh. So here's the thing. If it worked, I'd be all for it. And it's not just because I had a negative experience. I just have studied wealthy people now for 3 decades. I know what wealthy people do. It's not a theory. I'm more steeped in it than possibly anyone else in America right now. I know what works. And that stuff doesn't work. It'll work for a while, and then it catches up with you. What works every time is slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, 100%. Historically speaking, there's 3 drivers to wealth. There's the stock market, there's the real estate market, and then there's entrepreneurship. You talk about mutual funds. You got a whole program, Entre Leadership, that talks about entrepreneurship. And you talked about how you've invested in real estate over the years. How do you tell others to approach any of these or all of these on their journeys? Because you've done all these, but you've done it at a certain pace. You've done it at a certain time in a certain season of life. And it can be tempting to want to do them all. You want to, get your mutual funds. You want to go and start your business. You want to get into investing in real estate. And it can all be tempting because historically they've all worked in certain ways, in certain seasons. How did you approach all these on your journey to becoming wealthy? Because you had to rebuild, get out of debt. Then you started your business, and then you learned different principles of business that you begin to create products and teach others. So go back to that point when you were on your ascent, because there's people right there right now who are following your principles, who got their emergency fund, working their way out of debt or have gotten out of debt. And now they're in this phase where they want to start to build wealth or build business or do any of those things. Again, all of it, if you do, certain tactics that have historically shown to be the way to go about it in traditional ways, whether that's mutual funds or starting a business intelligently and doing your research behind it. But again, all these things can seem like the way to go. How did you decide, I'm going to focus on my business right now. I'm going to focus on getting my mutual funds together right now, so on and so on?
Well, before I answer the question about my situation, I think it's important to say, okay, what is typical among the millionaires that we've studied? Typically, they're not entrepreneurs. There are a few of them that are, probably about 15 to 20%. But the number one career field of the millionaires in the Ramsey Millionaire study, where we studied over 10,000 millionaires, the largest study, airtight research ever done of millionaires, is engineer. Number 2, accountant. Number 3, teacher. Number 4, entrepreneur and manager in a business. And number 5, attorney. Number 6 was doctor. They didn't even make the top 5. So, if you're picking career as a way to get there, entrepreneur is one of the methods to get there. But now, again, I will tell you this. If you want to be worth 100 million, probably a higher percentage of those are entrepreneur. So, but don't skip over getting the first million on your way to 100 million and do something stupid and build a house of cards. So let's concentrate on getting your first $1 to $5 million, and those are the career fields of the people that get the first $1 to $5 million. Now, if you study billionaires, you're going to find a whole lot of entrepreneurs there. But a billion is 1,000 million. It's a whole different realm, whole different world, okay? So now, to answer your question about me, where I made my first $1 to $5 million was in mutual funds. just after recovering from that, I simply started. I was running a business. We were living hand to mouth with the business, just feeding the kids, keeping the lights on, going. The business was not making a bunch of money, and everything it did make, we poured back into it to grow it. And so we really didn't accentuate our wealth with the business in the early days. We simply started with our 401ks and our Roth IRAs, and we just plowed into those things. And then we got our personal residence paid off. Those two things, much like regular millionaires in our study, are the things that made us our first 1 to 5 million. Now, disclaimer, Ramsey Solutions, is a dadgum rocket ship and has gone up hockey stick up and to the right. I mean, you and Ty visited the building, and the building I'm sitting in right now is worth about 400 million. So that didn't come from mutual funds and real estate investing. That came from Ramsey Solutions being a rocket ship and me pouring that back into real estate. But the money wasn't made in real estate for that level of wealth. But that first 1 to 5, which is foundational before you can get to the other stuff. Don't try to skip over and go over there, because now you're rolling the dice. You're at the roulette wheel again, and you're playing get rich quick again. Don't do that. So slow and steady, and not everybody's supposed to be an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the only person. The editor of Ebony magazine said, Joe Johnson said, the entrepreneur is the only person who can go from sheer exhilaration to sheer terror and back every 24 hours. And so it's just not everybody's supposed to be that. Some are supposed to be engineers and teachers. And you can have a great life in those other careers. You don't have to be running a business to be wealthy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things you said at the beginning of our talk today was that people get stuck behind the barrier of excuses. Excuses don't take away from reality. They only become excuses if you live there. So everybody, as you mentioned in the book, doesn't have the same starting line. That's a fact. Some people are born into situations where they're back a few steps. There are real things like sexism. There are real things like racism that offer barriers.
Absolutely.
But I love that throughout your book, you offer examples of people who had those obstacles and barriers, but didn't stay behind them. They decided to do everything that they could to overcome them. Like you talked about this one lady, her name was Jackie, and she had a whole lot of obstacles to overcome. Would you mind sharing that story?
Well, I mean, Jackie's African-American lady, single mom, grew up in poverty, grew up in subsidized housing, ended up back there, went through a divorce, the poor lady, good Lord, her name should have been Job. I mean, it was unbelievable, the stuff she went through. But I tell you what she didn't have. She didn't have a motor that knew how to turn off. She had something inside of her that was spinning. She was always dreaming, always smiling, always looking, always going, there's another day. And she had no reason in practical fact. If you looked out her window and looked out the peripheral vision of her life, she had no tangible practical reason to have hope. But she just chose it. She just said, I'm going to break this. I'm going to break this off my family, and I'm going to do it regardless of the fact that I'm a lady. I'm going to do it regardless of the fact I'm an African-American lady. I'm going to do it regardless of the fact I'm a single mom African-American lady that's been through a divorce. I mean, so the statistics on that are absolutely horrendous, right? And she just said, not me, time out. We're not doing this. And she just started little bit at a time. And here's what happens. You don't have to have enough hope to win the whole game. You just got to have enough hope to hit the ball and get on base. And then the next time you're up to bat, you go, you know what? Last time I hit the ball, I might be able to do it. And then next time you hit a home run, and then after you've hit 10 home runs and you get up to bat, you kind of swagger up there, right? Instead of kind of going in there like poor as me. But it's okay to walk up there poor as me. I don't even know if I can do this or not. But every time you get on base, every time you hit another home run, every time you have a win, you need to register that in your soul and say, my environment and the people around me that have been telling me that I couldn't do this was lying to me. Because hope is based on real things. And real things are, I'm winning. I got this debt paid off. Oh, look, now I got $100,000 in my 401k. And Jackie, the end of the story, you read it, goes on to become worth almost $2 million. I mean, she's a walking inspiration. And, I grew up in a blue collar, middle to lower middle income neighborhood and weren't poor. We didn't go without food, but there wasn't anything fancy in this neighborhood. It was a 1,000 square foot house, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. And I had a sister. So this was not good. I mean, we shared everything, right? And so, and people in my neighborhood grew up, blue collar guys, all going, well, little man can't get ahead. Boss is always going to be in charge. About the time you get ahead, the man kicks you down. And I heard these messages and I just said, no, I'm not going to time out. I'm not participating in this.
That's good, because I think a lot of people forget. They just see this Dave Ramsey. They don't realize the journey that you went on, and not just a financial journey, but even a mental, emotional journey, because you did receive all these diatribes growing up about what you and people like you would be able to achieve. But you said that you decided that you was going to opt out of that messaging, that you weren't going to let that become your narrative. I think that I want to spend a little more time there, because
you're going to become who you hang around with.
That's hard.
Yeah, you're going to become who you hang around with. And if the people you follow on social are all giving you an excuse, if the people in your life are all giving you an excuse and they say, you just can't do it, you can't do it, you need to get some new people. You need to get some people in your life that tell you can do this, and not a false thing. Okay, I'm 61 years old, 5'8", and a little overweight. The chances of me playing in the NBA, whether I believe I can or not, is zero. Okay, absolutely zero. So you can't do everything you think you can do. That's not the point. It's not false positive thinking, but I can do more with positive thinking than I can with negative thinking. And I can do more when the crew I run with are people who read books, but may not know Tiger King, every episode inside and out, right? These are people who actually read books and stuff like that. The people I run with are people who have had some success, and so they look over here at something I'm working on, they're going, you know what, if you do that, that's going to work, and I believe them because they know. And who are you going to put in your corner, man? Who's whispering in your ear? Because you're going to become that person. You talk like them, you walk like them, you carry yourself like them, you've got attitude like them, everything.
Yeah, 100%. And you said that the goal of this process, as we get ready to land this plane, is not stuff.
No.
It's generosity. It's to be able to give like no one else. Do you have any stories or any examples in all your research of how this journey led people to be able to give in ways that brought them more joy than purchasing stuff did?
It's one of the principles that leads you to becoming a millionaire: generosity. Generosity is a financial principle. And here's the thing. People who are selfish and don't give money and don't give away their lives are not attractive. They're ugly. People who are generous, give away money, and are kind and compassionate, giving. When you mention that person, you say that's a giving person. You might mean you're talking about dollar bills and Benjamins. You might be that they just opened the door and held it while you had groceries. That's a giving person. Giving people are highly attractive. And let me tell you who succeeds in life. People that are attractive. Now I'm not talking about pretty, because this ain't pretty right here. But giving is pretty. And that's who you want around you. People, not because you're trying to get money from them, but they're the kind of people you want around you. They're kind, they're compassionate, they have that quality. So, and here's the neat thing. You can just decide, it's just a decision. Today, I'm going to spend the next year being generous with money, with holding the door, with a smile when somebody's hurting, not participating in a bunch of negative hogwash where somebody's sitting around talking negative about somebody. I'm just going to walk out of the room. I don't want to be part of that. You can just decide to be a generous person starting right now. And let me tell you, of the millionaires that we studied, all of them are financially generous. I mean, it's like 90%. Their giving stories are story after story after story after story after story after story after story. They're giving bicycles, tractor trailer loads of bicycles in subsidized housing at Christmas, and had more fun spending $72,000 doing that than $67,000 on a cruise with their whole family in the Mediterranean. Oh, but you ought to do both, by the way.
I love that. I love that. That's the goal. So tell everybody a little bit more about what they'll find inside the pages of your new book, Baby Steps Millionaire, and where they can pick up a copy for themselves.
Baby Steps Millionaire, anywhere books are sold, certainly RamseySolutions.com. We appreciate that. And the big thing here is this. This is not about getting rich. This is about controlling your destiny and the variables in your life. And what is the highest probability? What gives you the greatest chance to get there the fastest and stay there when you get there? What is that? And this is a proven path. I've been doing this for 30 years. I didn't just sit down and make this up in a think tank on the weekend. This is observing thousands, millions of stories over my career and pulling the data together and the arithmetic together to show folks it can be done. So if you know someone that needs some hope, this is what it is, regardless of their obstacles. And you and I are not discounting obstacles in this conversation. They're there. They're real. This is hard, but it's not as hard as being broke. So you might as well go do it.
Choose your hard. Millionaire or broke. They're both hard, but you get to choose which one you want to pursue. Thank you, Dave, so much for making time out of your busy schedule to share your knowledge and your story with us today.
Well, I'm honored to be with you, my friend. I'm honored to call you and Ty a friend. I'm proud of the work y'all are doing.
Thank you so much. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another fantastic episode of the His and Her Money Show. Please go get a copy of Baby Steps Millionaire. We have the link to it in the show notes of this episode. You will love the book. You will be inspired by the book, and you will have instructions from the book to help you on your journey to becoming a Baby Steps Millionaire. That's all we got for this time, guys. It's been great. Till next time. Peace.